You suck. If you click this video, that's probably what you're telling yourselves each night as you cry a river of tears into your pillow thinking, why can't I win? All right, that may be a little extreme. And if that is the case, there may be some larger issues at play here outside of just not winning at sports betting. But here's the good news. You don't suck. You've probably just bought into all of the sports betting nonsense out there that fast tracks bankrolls to zero quicker than a smart car hitting an oak tree. Or you're just completely new to the game. None of that actually matters though. You're here now. And hopefully fixing these 8 mistakes that we're going to talk about, mistakes that at some point in their lives, everybody who bets sports has made many, many times, will take you from soaking your pillows in tears, yes, tears, to having the greatest night's sleeps you've ever had and waking up with a bigger bankroll. We're going to start simple here and then we'll get deeper into the weeds as the video goes on. But know this, I carefully considered all of the mistakes listed in this video and only included the ones that I think are going to make a giant difference for you right away. So let's get into it. Number 8, using irrelevant stats. You see this stuff all the time on YouTube and social media and people absolutely eat it up. This team hasn't allowed 30 points to an opposing center in 27 straight games. Bet the under on Joel Embiid. Well, none of that means a damn thing if this team was facing a bunch of scrub centers and no dominant scoring big men. And it's not like any of these sportsbooks were setting the points line on Isaiah Hartenstein at 29.5. Another one of my favorites, particularly when football rolls around, is this team hasn't beaten this team in 15 straight games. Lock it up, boys. Well, the Patriots had a 15-game winning streak against the Jets going into 2024, and you know what happened? They lost. Why? Because who cares what the 2019 Super Bowl champions did to the Jets back then when the Patriots are one of the worst teams in football right now? Remember, predictive, not descriptive. Teams change, players change, everything changes. So using meaningless stats from a decade ago, well, it's only going to result in losing long term. Number 7, thinking you know more than the books. There will definitely be times where you can find edges in specific markets, but just know that most of the time, whatever crazy stats you unearthed that led you to certain bets are almost always already baked into those lines. As sports betting continues to grow in popularity and legality, the sports books are going to become more advanced and more efficient too. And more than anything, they're paying people a ton of money to make sure that you don't beat them. But your best bet at uncovering actual edges is almost always going to come in these smaller niche markets where the sports book's lack of attention to detail or mistakes aren't going to cost them nearly as much money as opposed to these popular, heavily bet markets that everybody wants to bet. Keep in mind though, this isn't the case for when a sportsbook hangs a stale line or doesn't immediately adjust to injury news. In that case, fire away. But if you do that enough, just know they're probably going to limit you as a result. Just remember, knowing more about sports than all of your friends doesn't automatically translate into winning at sports betting. And it certainly doesn't mean you know more than the books. Number 6, overconfidence. Any person who tells you a bet is a lock is at best stupid or at worst outright lying to you. There are no locks in sports betting. Even when you find the most significant edge on a game, your advantage over the sportsbook isn't moving to 100%, not even close. There's just far too many variables that we'll never be able to account for. In-game injuries, unreported illnesses, fluky turnovers, freak weather, and outdoor games, the lists are endless. There's no easier way to drain your bankroll than to wager way more on a bet than you normally would because inside your heart you feel it can't lose. And there will be times where you can justifiably increase your wager size on a bet by a lot. But those situations come around only a few times a year, if you're lucky. Number 5, parlays. We've all seen the screenshots of someone that turned a $10 bet into $150,000 on a 20-leg NFL parlay. Well, we've also seen people win the Powerball on the news, and I don't think any of us scramble to buy tickets going, hey, tomorrow that's going to be me. And then you'll see the sports betting influencers flaunting an $80,000 win on a $500 parlay ticket. Here's the secret nobody tells you though. If the sports books are allowing them to bet $500 on a parlay, they almost certainly aren't profitable sports bettors over the long term. These days, if most sports books get even the slightest hint that you're a sharp sports bettor, they aren't going to increase your limits. They're going to decrease them significantly. There are legitimately smarter ways that you can bet parlays, and I covered all of that in a video that I linked below. But for the most part, if you don't know what you're doing, they'll be the reason you lose because you're treating them as lottery tickets. Number 4, only betting overs. This might be the biggest trap out there for casual bettors, and guess what? The sports books know it. So naturally, the first question that so many of our newer subscribers over at OddsShopper always ask us is, why do your tools recommend betting so many unders? Well, our data over at OddsShopper showed that, yeah, sports books do in fact place a decent amount more vig on the overs, specifically with player props, which means that oftentimes when you're betting them, you're paying the sports books more. and you're getting worse bets as a result. So when you're trying to find good bets every single day and lots of them, you're just going to get a lot of unders. And obviously that doesn't mean you never bet overs. Of course not. But it means that unders should be a part of your process too, and a big one. And the reason for all of this is simple. The large majority of sports bettors only want to bet overs. It's more fun, it's more entertaining, and who wants to root for a player to do worse than expected? The problem is they never pay attention to the odds the sportsbook is giving them. They just place the bet. So when we calculate the true odds on a bet compared to the odds the sportsbook is giving us, are you surprised that we're betting a lot more unders than overs? I actually did an entire video on this, and this is the data that I used. Here was the performance on all of the NFL bets recommended on our tools through the first 3/4 of the season. Don't just look at the crazy amount of unders recommended compared to overs, but look at the massive difference in ROI and in profits. If you can train yourself to be okay with the perceived grossness of betting unders, you're going to make a lot more money in the long term. And if you want to check out OddsShopper for yourself, the promo code UNDERS will get you your first week for only $1. That includes all of our proprietary tools used by the pros, a premium Discord with a ton of sharp bettors that'll help you elevate your game, betting trends, and a whole lot more. Number 3, Bankroll Management. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard this one before. But this comes down to a lot more than just chasing losses. Of course, chasing losses is going to drain your bankroll quicker than anything else. Because we all know how this works, and I've fallen victim to this many times. You stop thinking clearly because you lost all of your early bets, probably bets that you really loved, and now you just start spraying on whatever's out there without any research or guidance. That right there is a guaranteed recipe for disaster. But there's another giant element of bankroll management that's oftentimes ignored, and that's individual bet sizing. There is no world in which every bet you make is equal. So then why would your bet size be the same across all of them? At OddsShopper, we use Kelly Criterion, which recommends your wager amount for every bet you make based on your bankroll. It's a way to make sure you can still see really great profits without ever running the risk of ruin. But even if you're doing this on your own, it's critical to remember that every bet you make isn't as good as the one you made before it, or maybe the one you'll make after it. Size your bets accordingly and you'll see your bankroll grow. Number 2, sign-up bonuses. There are legitimately several times throughout the year where you could have only $20 to fund your betting accounts and end up with $800 in bonus bets as a result. Not taking what the sportsbooks are giving you is easily one of the biggest mistakes that any new sports bettor could make. And the crazy part is it's the easiest one to avoid. It's the same thing as somebody walking up to you on the street and offering you $200 if you give them $5, yet you walk away uninterested. You would never do that. So don't ever do it with sports betting either. And finally, number 1, only betting on one sportsbook. You might be winning more bets than you're losing and still losing money as a result. Have you ever wondered why that's happening? Because I can promise you it's not a cruel trick the universe is playing on you. There's a simple explanation. If you're placing a lot of bets and you're only doing it at one sportsbook, it is a guarantee that you're leaving loads of money on the table. That's why line shopping is hands down the most important aspect of becoming a profitable sports bettor. I mean, think about it. You're probably aware of the price of goods everywhere else in life. You wouldn't spend $30,000 on a car if you knew across the street you could get the same one for $28,000. So why in the world wouldn't we want to be cognizant of this when we're betting on sports? I'll give you another example. As I'm recording this video, Jonathan Kuminga under 5.5 rebounds is our highest rated bet over at OddsShopper, but only on Caesars Sportsbook. Why? Because the odds are minus 108. And a notoriously sharp sportsbook like Pinnacle has it at minus 136. FanDuel and DraftKings have it at minus 130. And we've calculated the true odds to be at minus 122. These seemingly small edges add up in a huge way over time, and it'll all be reflected in your bankroll. Plus, why would you ever want to give more money to the sports books than necessary? So I hope this video was helpful for you guys, even if it's just taking one thing away from it and applying it to your process going forward. And if that's the case, greatly appreciate you hitting that thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. It goes a long way for us here on YouTube. And if you have any questions about anything we discussed in this video, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below or tweet me at Laffy_D on Twitter.